This is Swarfcast. I'm Noah Graff. So then Tornos pivoted and they came out with the multi-Swiss, which, as we said before, I mean, it's just a really cool machine with so much room inside for the tool zone, and it's like 6 or 8 Swiss machines all, rotating together, sort of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But do they have a guide bushing on each one or not?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a choking mode turning.
Okay.
So it's still called Swiss, but not because it's a Swiss style machine. I guess Tornos have the privilege to call them Swiss because they're a Swiss company.
Well, also, is it like a sliding headstock still?
Yeah.
The way
opposed to the other multi spindles, on this one, the spindles actually move, but there is no guide bushing.
Right.
So the headstock, it is moving back and forth. The way the spindles look, it almost look like a Swiss machine, but it's not. You still operate the machine as a chucking machine.
Okay. Now, chucking machine is really, for our old school multi-spindle people here, it gets really confusing because, multi-spindles, chuckers, generally means you feed in blanks. But on Swiss, chucking mode just means no guide bushing. Took me a while to figure that out.
And that's the biggest problem, I think, for most shops that want to go from Swiss turning or Swiss machines to multi-spindles. Most multi-spindles are chucking. They're not guide bushing.
I mean, nobody would call an index a chucking machine. I mean, I've never heard anybody. I've heard chuckers that take the blanks, but I think only somebody that had only run Swiss might call it that, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's not a Swiss because you have no guide bushing, so you have to treat it like a regular lathe.
But it works a little differently.
It does.
Yeah.
And the transition to Swiss machines to a multi-spindle, it could be challenging for.
Can it get as fast the cycle times as, say, an MS-22, MS-32 index or a PC Schutte? I
could not answer that because I don't know those machines.
Okay. Can it run longer parts? Like how long a part can a 26 millimeter or 32 millimeter? Like all I know is for instance, an MS-32 index, somebody told me it can run 100 millimeter length part. Can a 32 millimeter multi-Swiss go longer than that?
It depends. One thing is having the capability of making a 100 millimeter part. Another thing is being able to run a real part at 100 millimeter length.
Of course.
So that the capability on the small multi-Swiss is 46 millimeter. And the small multi-Swiss is a 16 millimeter machine. But that doesn't mean that you can make any part that long because it's based on the diameter that you're machining. If your diameter is a 1/4 inch, you probably can machine a part 1 inch long. And after that, you're way too far on the stick out of the bar. The part is going to flex. So same thing for index.
Sure, but they work differently.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going down a total different rabbit hole. So, I mean, we have such a good story here. Because I was listening to the last podcast before. Let's go in pretty quickly how you first started your company, how you transitioned from Tornos, working at Tornos to starting your company, and then I want to talk about now. So you're working for Tornos. You're their ace. Not going to mince words. You were the man, particularly with the multi-Swiss. If I know of a multi-Swiss in the United States, you probably know where it is. And then you decided perhaps that you were looking for another thing, correct?
None. I mean, I had my mind already set that I wanted to start a shop from before starting the Tornos. But I knew that I was not ready. I knew that.
How long did you know that you wanted to start a shop and be in business for yourself? When did you start thinking that?
Maybe 5 years being into the field. I had taken the job before Tornos. I had already worked there for a year or so. When I actually seriously started thinking about it, looking at machines,
So until you worked at Tornos, you really hadn't considered entrepreneurship.
I had.
You had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you had, because you were running production before, and then you started working at Tornos. Before I go any further, since I'm just interrupting all your trains of thought, I just, I meet people who are techs who then work production and go back and forth. It just seems like it's just a totally different lifestyle. And I know a lot of people, I think, who prefer the working on machines than working production. It just seems like, I don't know. I was talking to a guy the other day and he's just like, yeah, I feel like a slave. He said, he said they just pay me too much. Every time I want to leave, they end up paying me more.
Yeah.
But so anyways, you had these entrepreneurial ideas, and then what was the thing that got you to the next step?
There is periods of time on your life when you're more focused and doing something. There is other periods where like you kind of forget a little about the idea, and just kind of know that you're not ready, or there's not the right timing, or that there is many obstacles at the moment that it's not the right timing. And the way it happened, it kind of happened unplanned. It was not the route that I was trying to go.
Serendipity.
Yeah, actually, it after I think it was 4 years working at Tornos, I decided that I was going to move to Texas.
Where in Texas?
Houston.
Okay.
I had traveled to Texas several times, and I really liked it. I liked the weather. I liked the atmosphere. I liked being near the water. Especially the Houston area has a few lakes in the area, and it was just I wanted to move there. And I traveled every week when I was at Tornos. Most of the weeks, it was rare for me to be in the office. I made the request to work from Houston, which they have a big airport, and I said, okay, what is the difference if I'm here in the office?
Because you're going to be traveling anyways.
Exactly. So for a week here and there that I work in the office, I can just fly here. And I don't think they have much of a choice, to be honest, because and I knew that they were gonna say yes. I mean, what are they gonna do? Just let me go?
I mean, some people might, but if they're desperate for talent, then they're not. Yeah.
I think it makes no sense to say no because of what I just explained. Like,
well, what year are we talking? 2015?
No, this is just before I started my business.
Oh, so this is
2017.
See,
yeah.
I mean, you make a total great argument. However, I feel like had this happened in 2021, it would have been even more obvious. Like, sure, you can work from anywhere. It was still a different world back then. This idea of who cares? I'll work from anywhere. So
yeah, because it was not taken lightly. Like when I sent the email announcing that I was going to be moving to Houston.
You announced it in an email.
Yeah,
that's a bit nervy.
And basically saying to them, if you guys are still okay with me being in Houston, I would love to keep my job and travel from there.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not a possibility, I understand. And, I accept it. Basically, if you guys are going to let me go, I understand,
you had decided that this was just something you wanted to do.
Yeah, that was not the agreement,
Why did you want to move to Houston?
the weather. Basically, the weather, the area. I like the area around Houston.
Okay.
I had, like I said, I had been there a few times. I drove. I liked it.
Okay. So then what happened? You decided to move to Houston, and then?
So I came back from a trip, and then I had a long weekend. I took a couple of days off, and I traveled to Houston. I looked at apartments. I picked one. I came back to here, the suburbs, and then I'm getting ready to close the deal on the apartment. And I hesitated. I had to travel to another place on Monday, and I decided, okay, I'm going to sign the contract and everything when I come back in a week, because they didn't seem to be like flying out the apartments, So I was like, give myself another week, and then I do the contract. And Tornos had already accepted, like, yeah, you can work from over there. It makes sense. It doesn't matter. You travel everywhere every week, so who cares where you fly from? And I go to this company to do programming training. And as I'm walking in, I have never been in this company. Don't know anybody there. As I'm walking in, I met the general manager.
What did they have? Decos? Multi-Swiss?
They have a variety of machines, from Decos to Multi-Swiss to Index to other older cam multis.
Yeah, you gotta get me into this company so I can.
Yeah. So as I walk in, and the plant manager, it's kind of an involved kind of a manager. He does programming. He helps with certain things in the shop. He's not just an office guy, So he's the one that is going to be trained to program the machine, the multi. As I walk in the room where we're gonna do the class, he hands me a USB. We're talking about something, and he just reaches out and hands me a USB.
Just like a little memory stick.
Yeah. And then I take it, thinking that he's gonna tell me, oh, can you give me some kind of procedure or information or something. As we finished talking, he said, oh, there is some pictures of a Deco 10 that we have stored. Take a look at it and let me know if you might know another company that might be interested in buying it. And I say, oh, okay, interesting. And that night, I go to my hotel, and I put the USB drive in my computer, and I open the pictures, and I'm like, I wonder if I can buy it myself.
9-axis?
It's with a 9-axis Deco 10. So the whole week I was teaching the class, in the back of my head, I was like, thinking, should I make an offer? How much should I offer? Would they sell it to me? How much can I afford? And all these questions, So I come back. Actually, I didn't come back. My class got interrupted because some other company had an emergency, and I had to postpone the class halfway through for another week. And I had to fly to another place. So that kind of gave me more time to think about it, and mainly see how much I could afford to pay for a machine at that time.
Yeah. Well, did you have credit you could go to a bank for, or you just needed to pay in cash?
That did not occur to me, and that kind of was not an option, because I felt like at the position where I was at, the machine that I would buy, it would have to be paid cash.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I buy the machine, I need a building to put it in, and I have to pay rent for that. So that's what I could afford. If I buy a machine, I could afford the rent, but I cannot afford a payment for the machine and the rent, and on top of that, my living expenses.
So how much did it cost? How much did you offer?
Um,
I remember from
well,
the last podcast. So
I don't think I gave an exact amount. I think I gave you like it was less than this and more than that.
if you don't want
But
to say, you don't have to. Everybody,
no,
you
I
can
can
go
say.
back to episode 63 and he gives a general idea.
Yeah,
It
but
was a
I
good
did.
deal, but it was a chunk of change.
Yeah, I mean, it was a chunk of change for an investment, and
It was as much as a
a
a
used
low
car.
yeah, a used car. What was it? Come on, it was about what, 20?
It was under 20.
It was under 20.
Yeah,
Okay. So like the machines you buy from us.
yeah, yeah. Not all of them, but yeah.
That's
Uh,
true. You did. There was one. So you buy this machine, and then what?
the week after, I returned to do the training, and I tried to think of ways to come up with more money because I thought it was a low number, and I don't know where a machine runs at. I just have seen the machines in different dealers that were for sale, and I thought that what I was offering it was too low. But when I went back to the company, I told the plant manager, I said, okay, this machine might be worth a lot more. I am interested though, and this is what I can offer. This is what I can pay. I don't think that the machine is worth that much. Maybe it's worth more, but this is what I can pay.
And of course, you didn't know what the condition was like. It was probably what, 2001, like, or 2000.
It was a 2000 machine, and the machine was stored for a year uh, without being used. And those things are things that I didn't know that now I consider when I buy machines.
Yeah,
And in a way, I got lucky because the machine didn't have any serious issues. Actually, it's still one of my best running machines
that's cool.
on the DECO 10s. Yeah, but I gave the guy the offer. He went to the owner of the company, came back 5 minutes later, and he shook my hand. It's like, yeah, the machine is yours. And for the conditions of the machine or the history of the machine or how it was, and you probably know this, anywhere close to 20 is a lot of money for a machine that is being stored for a year, and you don't know what kind of problems it has. I mean, right now I would be very skeptical of buying a machine that is being stored for a year.
And that's that old.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you buy it from a shop that is running, yeah, it could have issues, but the machine is running.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
I came back. I shook his hand. I came back, and it was all like a combination of a little nervous. Where am I going to put it? How am I going to bring it? And the first thing I started to do is look for buildings because he can only let me keep it there for so long. I have to find a place and I have to find somebody to bring it over. I started looking at buildings and first of all that leases were not, I mean, rarely find a building where they lease you less than a year. Typically it's 2 years or more.
Yeah.
And they want references that maybe you already rented or that you have a business
Yeah,
or
and they
something.
want a couple grand. I mean, I know we're looking for a building right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if it's small, you still have to put down payment or deposit and it kind of made it difficult to find one. So I started like brainstorming, okay, how I can find something, and I end up looking for a storage because at least I could bring it over and store it. Looking for a storage led me to finding a guy that was renting a space to park cars during the winter. A lot of people have those sport cars that they only drive in the summer and they don't have a place to park it in the winter, so they pay, I don't know, $50 per month, and they just keep it at one place. So I found this small building or a small place where the guy was, he had an ad for storing cars. And I called the guy and I told him I wanted to talk to him about the space to see how many cars he could fit. But my idea was to go there and see if I could rent the whole thing. I go there and it happens to be a small building. It was 1,500 square foot. And he was charging $50 per car per month. But you had no access to the car. You park it and that's it. So I run the numbers and I said, okay, how many cars can you fit in here? And he said 7, or whatever number it was. And I was like, well, that's if I give him that much and maybe a little more, maybe he'll rent me in the building. And I told the guy, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm interested in renting the whole building. You make more money, but I want access to the building. He was pretty decent. The guy was he understood, and compared to a normal rent right now, or even back then, I probably got that building for less of how much you pay for rent in that size of building.
Mm-hmm. Did it have the right power for a machine?
Yes. The first thing. I mean, I knew this by experience. That's the most important thing that you have to look in a building. The power. Yeah. Make sure you have the right power. If you don't have the right power, then.
So you rented the building, and then how did you get your first work?
Well, my idea was not to make production. The first thing I thought was like, there's so many Tornos out there, and there's not a single video for how to program a Tornos.
Yeah, because this is 2017, so it's...
Exactly. And Tornos came out in 97. The DECO line came out in 97, I think. The first thing I wanted to do is... it was the only thing I could do because I don't have the network or the ability to start a production shop with one machine, first of all. Second of all, the machine's probably is going to have issues. I have to, work at it to get it to running conditions. And so running production was not ideal at that point. And so I decided that I was going to start a YouTube channel, and I was going to do YouTube videos on how to program the machine, how to troubleshoot the machine, how to repair the machine and do certain things. So I started the process. I got the machine brought over. I installed the machine, and I started working at it, repairing it. I produced a part to use as a sample.
And you had to teach yourself how to use the DECO?
I did, because even though I knew how to use the Evo decos, the decos are different. It's not a hard transition, because if you know the Evo deco, or if you know programming TV deco, there is some differences, but the transition is not that bad. But I taught myself a lot of things on that machine, from doing certain repairs. I had done repairs, but it was not my field. That's not where I did at Tornos. I volunteered because I wanted to learn, but I could only volunteer so much, and I had only so much time available to help out with that kind of thing. So I did taught myself how to fix the machine, but what it helped me was that I had made a lot of good friends at Tornos. Not only here in the U.S., but in Switzerland. And I had experts at, a phone call away from talking to them.
Beautiful.
There is this friend of mine. He was at Tornos for over, 30 years. And his field was like repairs and installation. When it comes to fixing the machine, he probably knew everything. And we became pretty good friends, and we would talk often. So for me to call him on a Sunday evening and ask him something about deco, it was, just like calling a friend, hey, how's it going? Hey, you know how to do this? Oh, yeah, do this, that. When I get back to the office, I'll send you something. So having these friends in the industry or in the company helped me a lot.
So then what happened? How did you get your first job?
Well, as I continue working on this machine on the weekends, I continue working at Tornos during the week. I continue traveling. And I met a lot of people that we became pretty close to, almost like a friendship. And I was the type of person that it doesn't matter what day it was, what time it was. If a customer called me, I don't know even if it was not Tornos time, if it's in my time, if I'm just out hanging out. If certain people call me that I had created a good relationship with, I would answer.
And I can tell that this has been a huge, important part of your success.
Well, I think people see you different when you're willing to help always, and you always are there to if it's possible. Like there's times that it's not possible, but if you are always present a good attitude and are willing to help, I think doors will open much easier for you, and people can see and companies can see that you're a reliable person, that you will do your best to help and to succeed in whatever you do. And that's how production came about. One of those people that I help often with troubleshooting gave me a call asking for help in programming, and one thing led to another, and I mentioned that I had a machine. At that point, it was a good running machine because I had fixing it. And he immediately, without even think about it, he just said, maybe you should run production for us. We're extremely behind. And it didn't took a week before I had orders from that conversation.
So you started doing most of your work just for this company?
Yeah. And I think from there, you can't really do much. You can't really go out there and find 2 or 3 customers when you have one machine. So for me, it wasn't even like a plan, I'm going to try to see if I can find more customers. First of all, they were open for me to run production.
How many hours a day were you working?
Well, I would work Saturday and Sunday for sure from, I don't know, whenever I got up.
Because you were still working for Tornos?
Yeah, there was a period of time where I was still working for Tornos. The last few months working at Tornos, I actually wasn't traveling much. I told them that I was not going to travel anymore, and only whenever it was completely necessary. So I would go work in the office and get off 4:30 or 5 and go straight to my shop and run production until 11 o'clock at night.
What kind of parts were these? What were they for?
It was a couple of different ones. It was some hydraulics, some automotive, pneumatics. So the variety wasn't too huge. I mean, I started maybe with 3 or 4 parts. And between those 3 or 4 parts, they would repeat.
It just seems like this aspect of helping and giving others has just been something that's really served you well over your career.
Yeah, I think the reputation you leave behind has got a lot to do with your success in the future.
How often does it feel like people are using you and they're not reciprocating? Just to get negative here.
It happens less and less because it got to a point where I start putting boundaries. Not so much because I don't want to help the person. Is because my time is costing me.
Sure.
I'm leaving things that are
like right now.
Yeah. So it got to a point where not necessarily refused to help people, but I put a price to my time. If I'm going to spend time, there has to be a benefit for me as well.
Although you don't know always what the benefit's going to be in the future.
Exactly. And then initially you don't know. Initially, I think I'm open to. I have always been open to help people and work with them and talk to them. But at the beginning, you don't know. But it comes a time where like it's always just one direction, and whenever there's a chance to be reciprocated back, it just does not happen. And you start thinking, okay, well, I'm spending too much time helping this person, but
right. But you are willing to help people just on spec at first, without them, without knowing what's going to happen.
yeah, and I still do. I still get the message from here and there asking on how to do this, and if it's just gonna take me 2 minutes of my time just to reply a text message or send a document, I will do it.
Give me, sorry to interrupt. What's your typical day, morning to evening now?
My days are different.
So you wake up, what time do you wake up?
I don't have a time set lately, but most of the time I wake up between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Sometimes that could change if workloads is high. There's a week here and there that I might start earlier.
And then what? What do you eat? Do you exercise in the morning?
No, I do not exercise. I do go for walks at the end of the work. I don't know if you consider that exercise, but that kind of...
Well, you're also on your feet all day, or some of the day, so that's helpful. So, okay. So you wake up at between 6 and 7. What time do you get to the shop?
No later than 8.
Okay. And then?
I think my first hour or so, maybe 2 hours, are always in the computer. Some days are more office work, and I think it gradually kind of changed from shop work to office work, where now my time at the shop is less and less.
How many people do you have working for you?
I have 9 employees.
Okay, so you're in the office, and then how do you go into the shop much? How often are you?
To actually work in the shop 1 or 2 days a week, I would spend majority of the day in the shop. Some weeks are different.
What would you be doing?
Complicated new parts that require a lot of skills in the machine. I do myself still.
To get them started, to get them set up.
Yeah, because for me it's easier than just handing out a program to my guy and the time that it takes for him to figure out certain things and come back to me and then go back to him and then come back to me. It's kind of too much time in between. So when there is very complicated parts to be set up, I still go out on the floor and I still do it myself. I do have a guy that he's my lead person on the floor, and he has learned a lot in general. Like he does a lot of repairs on his own, but it all depends the workload on the floor. Like I'm not going to overwork him. It's just not efficient. I know that to a certain extent he's just gonna become less efficient in other things if I give him too much. So when that happens, I go on the floor and I help.
Is the dream to be entirely replaceable on the shop floor? Or do you also just get pleasure of coming down to the shop floor and working on it?
I think that in general, the company has more value.
Of course.
If it runs on its own. Because in my point of view, if I'm the one that has to be here to make things run, I'm actually the business, not.
Yeah, you own a job.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's more
like us. Like us.
Yeah. So I think that I get joy on working on the machines, and I think we kind of touched up a little bit in the last conversation we had that your job could be your hobby as well, in a certain way, because I do enjoy working on the machines, but I also see the benefit and the future is of having the shop run by itself, not me being involved, and I accept it, and that doesn't take anything away from me, because if I still want to go out there in the shop and work on a machine, it's not going to stop me.
Because the thing to me is you fell in love with I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you went to the technical school and you were just captivated by the process and all. And so, and I disagree with people who say we don't change. Our tastes change, what we feel like spending our time on changes.
Yep.
But my question is, I talk about the technical stuff with the machines all the time, and it seems like something that you enjoy talking about to some extent.
Right. Well, I think it's enjoyable for me to work on the machines, just as enjoyable for me to have the experience, because when you have a lot of experience working on the machines, it's enjoyable when somebody approaches you and asks you a question about how to troubleshoot something, and you can just pinpoint, this is your problem right there. Because you have worked on them so much that just with a little few details, you can just pinpoint, this is your problem right there. Not every time, but you're working on the machines constantly, troubleshooting constantly, to the point where it becomes much easier to troubleshoot, to find the problems. And that part is enjoyable too. You run the shop and I do my walk around, and this guy has this issue, that guy has issue, and I can just do walk around and just tell this guy, okay, this is your issue, work on this.
And you have tremendous credibility because you've done it. You've done it all.
Yeah, and another thing that it's not possible for every shop. Obviously, it's just the way business work.
But too many shops are, and many of the ones I've interviewed or know, they're even more reliant on the boss, or it appears that they may not be, but the boss seems to feel like they are necessary, or else, look, it's tons of emotions going in. Maybe they just don't trust them, and they could. Maybe they are needed. Maybe it's all twisted.
And the thing is that there is a lot of benefits of being involved in the shop. Even if you could step back and not be involved and just concentrate on other things like sales, like things in the office related to running the business, there is a lot of benefits to be involved in the shop. And this is for not only the owner, this is for companies that have managers, that have lead persons that have a job in the office.
They need to know what's going on. They need to be in touch with the people. They need to feel the heartbeat.
And the attitude of the people, it's much different if you come out there and you work with them. In my point of view, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm the owner and I care about the shop more than anybody here. That's why I'm going out there and talking to the people. But in any manager's interest, if you did that, you would make your life and your job much easier. If you go out there in the shop and you talk to the people, try to make their jobs easier, actually do your job and not just the paperwork and things are running. People change their attitude. I have a couple of guys that work here that they have told me that they're very proud to work here, because as an owner, you might see me in the desk a full day working in sales and trying to close deals. But the next day I might be underneath the machine full of oil, changing the motor and helping this other guy. They see that and they're like, we want to work, with you.
Sure. It's kind of like, LeBron James. Not only is he the best, but he works harder than anybody else. So, and imagine if you had that and LeBron James owned the team, then it would be like, damn, we better, you know. Okay, so it's been 4 years since we talked. You know, if you had to look over these 4 years, how did you think things might happen, and how did they end up happening?
I had learned from starting the business and from taking the job at Tornos that I wasn't expecting to take, or I was looking for it, that you always have to have goals. But you also have to be open to when opportunity presents. And you have to be willing to switch directions in any minute. And that could be a slight change, or that could be a complete change to another direction if the right opportunity presents. And that's how it has worked for me, and that's how I still see it. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know how the market is going to be. I don't know in what field we're going to go into. I don't know if I'm going to continue expanding, if I'm going to reduce the amount of equipment that I have, if I'm going to upgrade the equipment. I just know that I have my goal on where I want to be, but at the end of the day, I think that things happen and push you a certain direction where you must go. And that's how it's been in the last 6 years that I've been in business. I plan certain things and things go in a different direction, and you have to change. You have to make things work, or you have to take the opportunity, change your plans.
What was one thing that you really changed your plan on?
There was a point where I had planned to have a certain number of equipment. I did not want to grow any bigger. I just wanted to be at a certain number. I found it like it was like a good number. It was enough to have a few customers and be a little bit diversified and still be a good size of business, you know, for a small size of business that I am. And certain opportunities present at the same time that to me was an opportunity for either or. An opportunity to add more equipment and expand, or an opportunity to just get the equipment and in a later time resell it.
Yeah. See, I like customers like that are willing to spec, as opposed to I might get the job. If I get the job, I'll buy the equipment, but it's just a big circle.
It's a risk.
This could be a whole nother podcast just on this with us, because
exactly.
we could do a whole podcast about buying used equipment. You're one of the most interesting people to talk to about it. I have to wrap it up, and I'm sure you do. I appreciate all the generous time. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people of the world before we wrap this up?
For the people that are thinking of starting a business, they just have to keep in mind that if they really want it, it's going to happen, but it's going to require a lot of patience and a lot of hard work. Things might seem differently from other set of eyes. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen fast. You really like it, if you really want to be in the field, it's going to take a tremendous amount of work and patience. And if you don't enjoy the work, if you don't do it because you like the kind of work, if you like the pressure, if you like to be in that position, solving problems, maybe it's not for you, because
you're not going to have the drive to do it.
No, and you might not see what you thought you would see so fast. They say that a business is really not a stable business until after 3 years, and there's a reason why. I mean, before I thought about that, and I'm like, how can that be? 3 years is a long time. Well, it is. And those 3 years is just a lot of things that happen, and then you learn to understand that for you to be a business that is stable, that is growing, and then it has a future, you have to reinvest. You can't just start a business thinking that you made it. You can never say that when you have a business. First of all, you can never say I made it, because you could be the biggest shop and things go wrong and you're done tomorrow.
See, to me though, my thought is you've made it if you're doing something you love, if you're replaceable, if you're profitable, and yes, there's no certainties, and yes, you still have to make sure the ship floats. But to me, that would be making it. That would mean that you've made it.
I think you made it every day that you are in business.
Interesting.
It's unknown. You have to work as hard as you did when you first started to continue running the business. You can never just like lay back and say, now I can enjoy life and not worry about it or not work as hard.
You don't think so? What if you were to replace yourself, if you were to have enough good people that you could delegate it to people, don't you think you could have a great business and be a visionary and not work as hard?
Yeah, you could. And I think we go back to the same thing that people change. And then I think that it's not for me right now. But I'm also open to change directions, accept the change, because that's what the business requires. And for much that I enjoy doing certain things, I know that it comes a time where I have to hand out those type of responsibilities to other people, and my involvement in the shop, it becomes less and less every time. But you also get other things with it, like you change yourself, you start enjoying other things, and your experience is never going to go away. Your experience and your knowledge on the machines, it's always going to be there. You always gonna walk in the shop and know exactly what's going on. So it depends on what you're looking for when you have a business. It could come the time where you could be, let's say you just want to come to the office and work 8 to 5 and more in a relaxed mode. But I don't think I'm ready for that, and I don't think the company is ready for that. It could be fatal, and I'm happy the way things are moving. At certain points, things get crazy. At certain points, things are more settled. And the workload is always a roller coaster, and you have to learn how to ride it,
Dulio, that's awesome. This is a great interview. It's going to be a double episode. Absolutely. There's no way I don't do 2-hour episodes, but it's going to be excellent. I learned a lot, and it's interesting. We went through the same story, but different details came out, and
yeah,
all the interludes, those are where the interesting things came from, so I learned a lot, and I appreciate it. So thank you, and I will talk to you soon.